Welcome everyone. Welcome to the PyreSwap show for another exciting episode of Macro Monday. And I first of all just want to thank everybody who's here with us today, just right up front. I think the Monday show is a very, very popular one, and a lot of people who attend the Monday one, we get a lot of compliments for what we present here on Mondays. And we do have a great show today, especially because, first of all, in the United States, it's actually Labor Day. So this is a day where the markets are actually closed. This does kind of like make a I guess you could say a bit of a lull in things to report as far as market movement. However, there are still things you can talk about, and there's two things that I want to talk about today. And the first thing I can talk about is the fear and greed index of these websites. We have a fear and greed index on alternative.me of 26, and we have I think 43 on CoinMarketCap. And I want you to notice that these indexes must be getting calculated differently. And the fact of the matter is, I've never seen this on CoinMarketCap. I've never seen the fear and greed index been much lower than 40. I noticed that. So the alternative.me, fear and greed index definitely. Well, let's just say that it's definitely interesting. Now, I think down from last week, alternative.me ranked a greed index last week, and the fear and greed index here, I have no idea what it was, but in theory, it's kind of interesting that you can see a price of Bitcoin being 58,000, and the market is still in like a state of fear. I think it really speaks to the time preference of the average crypto user. Like, it's just that like everybody, because of its volatility, everybody is looking for whatever their goal is to be. They want that goal to happen faster. And I guess I should say thank you to everybody who has the patience to be a PyreSwap investor and a member of the PyreSwap user base as well. Okay, I'm not even going to address the chat right now, but I appreciate everybody in the chat commenting about stuff like that. As far as, I will talk about shorting, actually. I will talk about shorting. I'll talk about shorting. Shorting, like as it was done historically and traditionally, is like you borrow an asset to sell it now, and then buy it back when it's priced lower. Does that make sense to everybody? Well, and Dr. Mac, thank you for at least acknowledging me speaking. I want to say that as far as the fact that a lot of things for the journey of PyreSwap, and I know that a lot of you guys have watched the PyreSwap origin story video, almost every single thing that didn't turn out as quickly or as nicely as it was planned turned out to be better in the long term. An example of this is the acquisition of 2Ohm and 3Ohm, right? Like that I don't know how it could have gotten better. Like, it was something that turned out to be better than expected. Delays in the development of the incarnation of Witch Vault also made it better than expected. So effectively, effectively, by the way, and short by selling it, you can short by selling it, but believe it or not, that platform known as Taro, does allow you to do leverage shorts based on providing liquidity. We are very, very pro shorting in the GPSC. You guys are allowed to short things for sure. We don't have the liquidity yet deployed on Taro to do that. That's mostly because we want liquidity to be deeper for this, and we also want liquidity to have more price fee structures, more swap fee structures before we get on Taro. So that will be that is more of an investigation for the future, if that makes sense. This is what a short looks like. If you want to short anything, you're welcome to. If arguably, this might be one of the only projects where we say that you're welcome to short the coins and we don't feel bad about it. However, if you've been paying attention, what we're doing right now is we're trying to reverse the trend. So maybe if you were shorted, maybe if you shorted in the beginning of August, that would have been a great short. But for those of you who didn't, I would assume now might be a more competitive time to go long. But anyways, so things that I was going to talk about today involve the September effect and the October effect. And this is in like regular markets, modern markets. I'm going to stop using this blue actually. The September effect and the October effect. So, by the way, I'm wearing a shirt that I got just for you guys. Okay, I'm just hoping that's as clear as it gets. Yeah. Is that getting through? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Yep. Well, guess what? Guess what, Alessio? You don't have to fake it anymore. You don't have to write it on with impact font. It's right there. Yeah. Amazing, amazing. Okay, so first of all, Warren Buffett sold a lot of Bank of America shares. He sold 15% of his entire pile to go to cash, right? So Warren Buffett, when Warren Buffett gets into cash positions, this is generally a bearish indication for the market as a whole. Does that make sense? Like Warren Buffett is meant to be in a large, long-term, like stock hold. Does that make sense? Like that is how Berkshire Hathaway plays. He does long-term holds of like giant company stock. Does that make sense? So when he sells these Fortune 100s and Fortune 500s, it's generally considered bearish that he is in fact optimizing his position and then waiting in cash. Thank you, Pega. I appreciate your ideation. Yes. Okay. All right. Well, Pega, I'm not going to wear this shirt every day. Okay, only for special occasions. So, let's talk about. Does everyone understand what I mean about Warren Buffett selling stock and how that's viewed as like a market indication, like a general indication? Okay, moving on. The September effect and the October effect. Now, these are actually things that I like talking about a lot because I'm going to close this off right here. I would actually request screen share, sir, to my producer. Okay, so the September effect, and we're here on Investopedia.com for September effect. So, what is the September effect? The September effect refers to the historically weak stock market returns observed during the month of September. In fact, September has been the worst performing month on average going back nearly a century. The September effect is a case of calendar-based market anomaly. Calendar-based market anomaly. By the way, we will be creating this type of concept in the GPSC as well. Arguably, the velvet rope pattern is also like a calendar-based anomaly. Did you guys know that? Not all calendar-based market anomalies are bearish, by the way. Some of them are bullish, right? In the sense that it occurs without any real causal event. Well, actually, we know what the cause is here. But challenging the efficient markets hypothesis. The EMH is, if you guys don't know what the efficient markets hypothesis is, the efficient markets hypothesis implies that all knowledge is contained within the market, like as it stands. But it's wrong, and it actually is. The reason it's wrong is because it doesn't understand that the information in the market is a bunch of a bunch of it's an aggregation. Okay, it's an aggregation of imperfect knowledge that, through its aggregation, kind of arrives at the correct knowledge. If that makes sense. So like, the efficient markets hypothesis goes back a century as well, and it's something that Mandelbrot also challenged in his book, The Misbehavior of Markets. It's an example. But anyways, September. There is a statistical case for the September effect depending on the period analyzed, but much of the theory is anecdotal. In recent years, the median return for September has actually been positive. There you guys go. In recent years, September effect. Again, once too many people in markets think of something as like perfectly true, it becomes false. Does that make sense to you guys? Which is why, even in the velvet rope pattern, you'll end up with these scenarios where it becomes over-speculated, and then it ends up reversing itself. Do you guys get what I'm saying? It ends up looking more like this. So this is also, by the way, this is also why Jim Cramer, when Jim Cramer announces he's bullish on a stock, people say it tends to go lower. Like the Jim Cramer effect is reversed. It's not because he's bad at analysis. It's just by the time he's ready to announce his analysis, there's been millions of people watching his show, or at least hundreds of thousands or whatever. And by the time they reverse engineer the way he analyzes to the point where they're front running Jim Cramer. And then by the time that they're in fact announcing Jim Cramer's pick, they're already ready to liquidate because they assume that new dumb money is coming in, which they can sell on top of. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? Okay, so the September effect is a supposed market anomaly where stock market returns are relatively weaker in the month of September. This is considered an anomaly since it violates the assumption of market efficiency. Market efficiency in general market efficiency is what happens when you remove emotion from the market. Does that make sense? The market always has emotion in it. That's the way I would describe it. Nobody can really have perfect knowledge because by the time I say something, it could still be a couple seconds delay by the time it gets to you. And these small little delays can build up over time just like a traffic jam. Does that make sense? Right? I know I jumped through concepts extremely fast, but if you guys understand what I mean when I say a traffic jam is caused by the accumulation of like a few second delays, right? It's just a bunch of people just like back and forth. And over time, you end up with something that blocks traffic up for an hour, right? Okay. Some consider the observed weakness in September to be attributable to seasonal behavioral bias, as investors make portfolio changes to cash in at September's end. This is also a great example of the fact that human nature is the prime mover behind all of this. So if you guys aren't aware of this, historically, humans, especially since the agricultural revolution of 100,000 years ago, they have used September to prepare for harvest. Does that make sense? So like they assumed that there was going to be a bunch of work coming up. Does that make sense? But then by the time harvest was over, that's when there would be kind of free time. Does that make sense? Like summer is when it grows, but autumn is where it starts to die, right? Autumn is where the end of the life cycle has to happen. Okay? So while there may be some statistical evidence for the September effect, this will depend on what time period you look at. Again, this is also just something that you may or may not see. And arguably, most economists and professionals discount the existence of the September effect. Okay, so again, I'm not trying to tell you that like this is something that is guaranteed to happen, because when something becomes most prevalent, that's when it starts reversing, right? But historically, there has been a September is certainly not the worst month. Okay. Yeah. Some years September has been the highest performing months. Do you guys remember? Yeah, exactly that, ZeroKex. Yeah. And also ZeroKex, that spring is like new life. So we're leaving winter. So you start seeing green again for the first time, right? A lot of animals breed in spring as well. So hunting, right? So hunting is, well, you can't kill a young, I don't fucking know how hunting works there. But anyways, in general, the fact that they are breeding is bullish for hunting later that year, if that makes sense. So So here they have a bunch of reasons why it could exist. There's also the October effect. Did you guys know this? Also the October effect. The October effect refers to the belief that stocks in decline during months of October. What? We just left September. Now, this is something, again, evidence for the existence of the perceived anomaly is not very solid. So, yeah, October's 100-year history has in fact been net positive. Does that make sense? So the fact of the matter is that, like, the October effect is actually a weaker perception than the September effect, right? I want you guys to know in 2021 for crypto, this was not true at all. In fact, September and October were, I think, great months for the original Tomb Finance. Did you guys know this? September and October of 2021. That was, I believe, they had the exploit that crippled that name September, and then October was when I guess I got in around September too. But October was when it really started to rally, like T-shares specifically. So like, yeah, this is what I'm getting at. Like it's what was doable to make Tomb Finance and I guess all of the rest of this come to life. It was in fact a rally in October. But I want you guys to understand, the October effect apparently has been a positive month because people come back for September. Does that make sense? But some people think October is a sad month only because of acute crashes. Does that make sense? Yeah. The October effect is considered to be more of a psychological expectation than an actual phenomenon, as most statistics counter the theory. Again, people's expectations and actual statistics are often different. Like, people feel the same way about October they do with September, but again, October has tended to be a net positive month on average over the past century or more. Does that make sense? So October is generally a positive month, but people still feel that it's negative, and this has to do with volatility clustering. So the fact that this month would also follow September, people assign that same type of season to it, but it actually is just better than expected. It's just that people tend to be, their perspective tends to be a little bit more bearish. You know what else could be affecting this, by the way, is their diet. So humans, their diets change in this season, and that diet could make you more optimistic or more pessimistic. So I want you guys to know, if you find yourself being optimistic or pessimistic, and you think that it's externally related, it could be internally related. It could be your diet. I think one of the best tricks for optimizing your life and driving results is figuring out how to enable or disable or alter your own perspective in order to motivate and incentivize yourself to do what it takes to move the needle. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? And by the way, I'm going to write this on the board because this is one of those things I say. Move the needle. Do you guys know what I mean when I say this? I'm going to say this a lot. I know that a lot of you guys are inside the troop, or a lot of you are going to be in the troop, so you might get used to my vernacular. Yeah, you're right. I need to do something like that, right? Who here knows what I mean when I say this? And by the way, we will be getting another piece of equipment so I can read Twitter and Twitch and Kick and YouTube chats. I know that we're getting more and more comments on those streams now, so it only makes more sense that I would be looking at more chats at a single time. Yes. We're referring to a needle on a gauge. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? And I want you guys to understand something, that we're in crypto. It's a very volatile market, right? So we're gonna have days where we rally and days where we crash, and it's not gonna be something from that day that caused that. That's just noise in the system, and it's the nature of the beast. What we do in order to succeed is we have to make incremental progress on everything we're doing every day. Does that make sense? Right? So like, some days are gonna be great and some days are gonna be bad. The way that you have a greater control over the outcomes is you move the needle every day. Does that make sense? Like wherever you're working, think about, even if you feel like shit, even if you have food poisoning, even if you're throwing up, it's like, what can you do to at least make tomorrow a little bit more progress than you are today? Sometimes if you're sick, one of the best things you can do is actually just prepare for the day when you're not sick, that you're going to be more optimized and more effective. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So like if you're sick, like I would say do the work on yourself that's necessary so that when you do get back to work, you're actually moving the needle even more so to make up for the time lost. Making sense? We did man on the street content this last weekend. Does that make sense? Did you guys know this? Did you guys see the picture? I know there's a lot more of you on here today. You guys saw the picture, right? So we only went out to do that specifically for the point of when we effectively have our TikTok and our Instagram and our YouTube Shorts, when we have those platforms ready to go, we have, first of all, I needed to go get practice. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like I had to go, I have to be a beginner at that too. So I had to go get practice doing it. We had to go practice the equipment. We had to go test to see how the audio turned out, how the video turned out, so we can kind of tune it in. And you know, when we were this PyreSwap show, we were building this set since December of last year, arguably, or even July of last year, July of 2023. And I was still doing the PyreSwap show for a lot of time, even on audio, like just to get this set ready where it needed to be, where it is now. These small incremental changes are what compounds to effectively you getting to where you want to be. Hope that makes sense. And all you can do every day is move the needle. Sometimes you'll have booming successes. Sometimes you'll have booming results. But really, I think the days that you have explosive results are just the released elastic effect of a whole bunch of sequential days of moving the needle. Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about specifically is flight to quality. This isn't the last thing, I guess, but it's one of the things that I can talk about. Also known as flight to safety. Who here knows what this is? What are we referring to? And by the way, I will abbreviate this as FTQ. All right, I'm going to eliminate October effect here, and we can look at flight to quality here. True, Pega. It goes deeper than that, though, too. It goes deeper than that because I would say flight to quality is also what causes crypto summer and crypto winter. It's actually a panic effect. Yeah, this is actually panic. Yeah. I guess I'm not going to call it panic effect. We'll just call it emotional market behavior. We have this on screen share, actually. So I will actually... You know what? I would like to get feedback from whoever's listening right now. And I want you guys to notice that in fear days, we generally have a smaller turnout. And in greed days, we have a higher turnout. And I want you guys to understand something that, like, that shouldn't be the case if you want to effectively outsmart the market. Because I do this show every day. You know what I mean? Like, I do this show as consistently as I can, right? We've had to skip it a few times here and there, but like, it's because of our consistency doing this show that like this show will drive results for us. I don't think that people understand that their own consistency, your own consistency is going to be what determines how you do in a market, right? Like a market will have upturns and downturns, but it's going to be your consistency that ends up yielding the most results, because you have to focus on what you can control in a market, and what you can control is yourself. So if the market being bullish causes you to stampede into the audience of the PyreSwap show, but the market being bearish causes you to decide not to attend, what this means is, that must be what it is. But what this means is that you are effectively getting front run. Do you guys get it? Like if you're letting like the market upturn or downturn affect your behavioral consistency, it means that you are not the prime mover. You are effectively the one getting moved. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like, so like it's that behavior there where I would start as, this is why you're losing money, because you're letting the way that the market is over the last 24 hours affect your motivation to participate in it or learn about it. And that is probably one of the most important Macro Monday lessons I've ever given. Do you guys get it? Like the people who are absolutely phenomenal as traders or investors, they're extremely consistent. They're so consistent and they're just non-emotional. Yeah, they're not emotional and they're very consistent. And it's not because like they naturally have an ability to be a robot. They develop that skill within themselves. They just become resilient. Does that make sense? That would have been a great little short form clip maybe in the future. Thank you, ZeroCax. I hope that's a yes. So we're going to actually go to screen share, again, Mr. Producer, and we're going to talk about flight to quality. So flight to quality or flight to safety is a financial market phenomenon occurring when investors sell what they perceive to be higher risk investments and purchase safer investments, such as gold and other precious metals. This is considered a sign of fear in the marketplace as investors seek less risk in exchange for lower profits. Okay, so flight to quality is usually accompanied by an increase in demand for assets that are government-backed and a decline in demand for assets backed by private agents. So when we talk about flight to quality, they're generally referring to this. Stocks go down and then bonds go up. So something that a bond has, a bond, by the way, is literally like you're able to invest in the Treasury of the United States. You're able to like invest in the government. They generally have extremely low returns because of how safe they are. And the fact of the matter is that they can even have negative returns. They can actually be bought up to the point that the return doesn't make sense. And during extreme market fear events, like during coronavirus, the bond curve went inverted, meaning that the yield from bonds would still be lower than the cost of inflation of the dollar. Does that make sense? But people were willing to safe haven so hard that they were saying, I would rather take a smaller loss in bonds than take a larger loss by holding cash. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So when Warren Buffett sells Bank of America stock, he is also performing flight to quality, because when Buffett is an equity investor, so he's going to go to cash. Make sense? I don't think he holds bonds. Maybe he does. They're also long-term holds. But I'm assuming when Buffett goes to cash, this is also flight to quality. Generally speaking, the reason stable coins like Tether and USDC are as high market cap as they are is because flight to quality is so bankable. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like flight to quality is something that you can bet is going to happen when it comes to market behavior, especially in crypto. Do you guys get what I'm saying? The dollar is not even a stable instrument, but compared to the rest of crypto, it's extremely stable. I mean, we've seen the biggest dollar inflation in decades, right? In the last 5 years or so. So, you might be wondering, well, first of all, one, I just wanted to teach this. When I say FTQ in the future, I'm referring to flight to quality. I want you guys to understand something. And it's related to what we are actually building here with the GPSE. Vibratile. Vibratile, yeah, is not volatile and not stable. Do you guys understand this? So when I talked before in 2022 and 2023, talking about our goal is to be the type of project that grows the most during crypto winter, as it were. It's because of what? Flight to quality. Because when we finally get TWAPs above 0.8, we're going to be in the vibratile range for these tokens. Does that make sense? Like, once we get into this range, we're still going to be at the behest of market booms and busts, right? Market surges and crashes, right? But the fact of the matter is that our token behavior will be consistent to the point, it'll be consistent to the point that when these crashes happen, this is still a economy. The GPSC is still an economy, it's still an ecosystem that money will still come here and money will stay here because it's just so goddamn consistent. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Right now we're in a genesis, a very inflationary genesis. This was done for marketing reasons and for the purpose of deepening liquidity, and arguably in the long run it will be very, very beneficial. I know that everybody is not so convinced of this now, but I promise you, this is all I think about. I only think about inflation and deflation. I only think about the way instruments behave. When we get to this point, and these tokens are vibratile, some of them will be velvet rope volatile, some of them will behave a little bit differently on the charts. This will be a different type of investment vehicle in Web3 as a whole. Do you guys understand what I mean? Like it's not volatile and it's not vibratile and it's not stable, right? So like it'll have, instead of it being like a complete nonsensical range, you'll always know where it's going to try to correct to from tokenomics. You'll always know that like, okay, in the long run, it's always probably going to be here. Now, there's always going to be noise in the system that can delay that, prevent that, confuse that, etc., etc. But in the long run, it has to behave this way. It behaves this way faster with a larger user base too, which again, just stressing the point of why we keep talking about growing the user base is a big deal. And I'm more and more bullish on it because I realize how advantageous we are based on how the semi-rich circus is organized to really make it happen. So later on, in crypto winter, if you guys aren't aware of this, there's still money in crypto winter. Did you guys know this? In fact, Bitcoin crashed to 18 or 16K last winter, but 18 and 16K in 2017 and 2018, that was the summer peak. Did you guys know that? Like the summer peak of 2017 was the winter of 2023. Does that make sense? So it took 6 years for what was a summer figure to be a winter figure. 6 years. Making sense? Okay. So the fact that these instruments will be demonstrably, meaning we will have demonstrated their vibratile activity to a large enough user base where they begin to see, okay, I can now trade in this range because I have a probabilistically higher chance of making it work in that range. Now the fact of the matter is that this could also cause Jim Cramer effects, right? Because once something is so good to be true and so many people are betting on it, there are now people who will effectively trade they'll be trading to front run that in a different position. So meaning, actually I'm gonna change the color here. If you have the velvet rope pattern and it's above 0.8, which by the way we wouldn't have decay in this range anyway, you would still have the velvet rope pattern behaving the way that it does. Does that make sense to you guys? Now you got to understand these TWAPs are based on Phantom, right? Or AVAX or BNB. You guys follow me? So it's actually on a dollar numeraire chart, these lines are also kind of crooked. Do you guys get it? Because Phantom can rally or crash 30% overnight, right? Everybody seen this now? Or 50% overnight, right? Thank you, Pega. Thank you, ZeroKex. And the way that you know, let's say the way that 2-ohm or 3-ohm might behave, I'm not going to be as good at drawing those waveforms, and arguably they would behave differently based on how the nights are working things out. So more on that later. But they also have their own reasons for being above 0.8 and being below 1.01, right? So like 2-ohm can, by the way, can, or should I say has the potential. Can, when I say can, I mean have the potential. Can need, right, below 0.80 TWAP. Right? And for those of you who understand, you can in fact, yeah, no worries, CJ, no worries. 2-ohm can meet below 0.80 TWAP. And for those of you who have done this before, you understand that you are in fact burning 2-ohm to buy it, to buy more of it, and then also pump the price. Does that make sense? Like 2-ohm having this option in it, this convertibility option, is very, very good for bringing it up in price, right? In fact, meeting helps the price more so than Genesis so far, right? Well, I guess it depends who you ask. But meeting is stronger for holding a price up than a Genesis. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Because the fact of the matter is it's not just like it's getting bought randomly, but rather it has these surges of getting bought, right? And these surges of getting bought are done on purpose, because I think when I was designing meeting that like these spikes of activity are what people in DeFi like to see. Does that make sense to you guys? Which is why we have the epoch system, right? So like everything matters in like the first 10 minutes or the last 10 minutes. Do you guys get what I'm saying? There's 5 hours and 40 minutes, and then there's 20 minutes of just, you know, excitement. Everybody follow me? The ultimate moment and the first moment. 10 minutes on either side. Okay? Now, we used to have decay on Pyre Phantom, and that meant that it inevitably was going to get to 0.8. Does that make sense? Like, it would just decay to 0.8 even without transactions. But, again, it was a good crutch at the time. It was great for proof of theoretics, but I don't think that having the decay This is blue again? Okay, let me try red. Decay. It was in fact what's not deepening, but dredging. Yeah, it was okay. It was evaporating. I don't want to say evaporating liquidity like I'm talking about water. Yeah, it was reducing liquidity. Does that make sense? It was making, yeah. It was reducing liquidity depth. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? And the fact of the matter is like PyreSwap is a DEX. Like it is a DEX at its a DEX is like the concrete that PyreSwap is built on. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like, do I care about being like the well, actually we will be a very impressive DEX very soon, but it wasn't really about like making the most DEX of the DEXs, that like being the DEXs of DEXs. Yeah, exactly. But Pega, the problem there is that these coins, Pyre Phantom, Pyre BNB, and Pyre AVAX, they are DEX tokens. So a DEX token probably should not be working against the goals of a DEX. Does that make sense? Like a DEX wants a lot of TBL and a lot of liquidity. The high TBL and high liquidity helps us get arbitrage fees, which get fed to the incantation. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So like, we turn decay off for the purpose of us being able to feed more arbitrage into the incantation over time. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like we turned decay off because it was going to be like a bit of a longer fucking crawl to get there. But again, we're making this happen exponentially through our content and marketing strategies. I want to talk about that as well. And do you guys understand that when we effectively arrive in the vibratile range, then we really do have a completely new value add as far as instrument behavior for all of crypto. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like nobody's really built a vibratile instrument in crypto before. So not only is active staking an invention, but we also have a new type of instrument behavior. Do you guys get it? And the reason that Pyre Phantom will stay up in this range is because this is the range where meeting can't touch it, right? So like when meeting happens, it gets pulled down. So once it's able to burn up into this range, and the night tokens are also up here, it is effectively shielded from meeting. At the same time, if it goes arcane, it also reduces the reason to buy it. Because other people who have it, they're not going to try to buy it to get into the incantation. Making sense? Hope that makes sense. I was going to talk about, talking about the user base. So, I keep talking about us needing a minimum threshold of user base, and I talk about this being like a number higher than Dunbar's number, where we need de-individuation of the token, de-individuation of the community. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Yes, ZeroKex, yeah, exactly. And also the people that are in the Arcane Witch Vault, that are in the Arcane, they also, as soon as, depending on their trust level of the other members, like they will probably dump hard after the fact. Does that make sense? Because like when it's time for them to get usurped, right? Because usurping will definitely be back on when we're in the TWAP of 0.8 range. Let's put it that way. So when we get the user base that high, we will take the usurping guard off again, and people will definitely be jumping the fuck out of people will be jumping out of the Witch Vault when it's arcane because it makes sense to do so. Do you get what I'm saying? They'll be claiming as fast as they fucking can, and then exiting, which is why we have these max swap buttons as well. Okay, so a Web3 user who naturally becomes bullish on PyreSwap I'm gonna change marker again. Tends to be smarter than average. Would you guys agree that people who kind of like fall into this project well, I don't understand, CJ. Okay, whatever. Okay. Anyways, the point being is that people who are arguably like they either don't understand. Oh, CJ, you mean like elitist? Elitist? You mean elitist? Oh, well, Alessio, I would say that like people who are bullish at this point makes more sense. So yeah, again, Alessio is a great example that it's not always true. Okay? Yeah, Alessio is bullish, but he doesn't understand it. Okay? I'm joking. Alessio is a smart cookie. But I'm talking about like people who end up in this server, whether they just saw the Yabonks video once and they're like, okay, yeah, this is it. Or they literally they saw something on 4chan, right? We built something on 4chan once and we had people show up for that. And they tend to realize that it's different, and they actually do the studying and they do the math, and we actually had a guy do the math as well, and they end up being smarter than average. And I'm not trying to sound elitist, but I guess I am. When we end up with the user base that we want, we have to increase the shit out of awareness, because the person that we effectively needs to be smarter than average. Do you guys get it? So it's like there needs to be like a litmus test, or almost like a filtering process that we're not really even in charge of, that kind of determines whether somebody who learns about the project instantly becomes a hyperbole or they don't. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like a lot of people who I'm not trying to bash them. I appreciate these people. They support the project, but they also don't understand it. Like they're like, just, can you say it one more time? Can you show me the video one more time? Can you talk about it one more time, right? And it's okay. Like, I need to learn things through repetition myself. But the fact of the matter is that when we end up with our user base, when PyreSwap ends up hitting our daily user base requirement, we're going to have one of the most powerful brain trusts in Web3. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like, our user base is just going to be filled with smart people. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? That is in and of itself a social good. Yeah, and it's a social good, by the way, because that's more people that can teach the thing. Does that make sense? That's more teachers, and it's more ideation, it's more invention, it's more teamwork, it's more strategy, and likely more capital too, if you think about it. Do you guys understand what I mean there? Yeah. It's just, yeah, like again, I'm not trying to sound elitist or even exclusionist. We put the NFB on the board, right? We put NFB, like, hey, this is not for beginners. So, like, that's already there. I don't really expect that we're losing business to, like, Trader Joe or PancakeSwap or whatever, or SpookySwap, which are the ones that we link to in the yellow pop-up. But the fact of the matter is that, like, when we end up with the user base that we're going to attract, they're just going to be smarter than, like, our community will be smarter. That's what I'm getting across. Me, 5, I've been called a fire hose of information. So I think even understanding me is already like a litmus. Do you guys get what I'm saying? CJ, 100%, yeah. And also, yeah. And Zero Kex, great way of describing it. Did you guys know that during crypto winter, that Web3 as a whole is like a little bit smarter. Did you guys know that crypto summer, it's like Web3 gets dumber because it gets more popular? And also we're in meme coin season. Do you guys know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, and like whatever, yeah. So the community has to be smarter because it's impossible for us to kind of assume that the average like meme coin investor is going to wrap their heads around this, right? And some of them will, by the way, but like it's okay if they don't. PyreSwap and the GPSC is meant to be like economically diverse enough that people can be dumb as well. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, we're not trying to say that there isn't money to be made for dumb people, but like, yeah, there's definitely going to be always be more money for smart people. And that is kind of the way that finance works naturally. But yeah, it just requires study and it requires practice to kind of like really get your skills up. By the way, there's tons of smart people and their brains are specialized in a way where they still don't understand me, but they're brilliant in other areas. Do you guys get what I'm saying there? Like, so like, I'm not even trying to say that there's like a one size fits all intelligence or anything like that. But yeah, but our community will be smarter than the average project. Because our community is smarter, we will also do better over crypto winter. Do you guys get it? Like, honestly, if you think about the fact that our project right now, I said it yesterday, we were down 30%, 40%, and 50% over the week, right? We tapered emissions, at least I think we did, I'll check. And but we still have this user base that remains bullish on the project, and the user base that's always our staunch user base is always like quite often the smartest people, right? Like you couldn't pay them to become bearish, right? Yeah. Jeff is way smarter than people realize, by the way. Yeah, Jeff plays dumb, but Jeff actually understands a lot of the intricacies of rapport and community and extroversion, actually. Yeah. Anyways, I agree with that as well. Yeah, Jeff is like a babysitter. Yeah. But yeah, anyways, yeah. If you guys are looking at the market today and you see red candles, and they're not even ours, like our charts look like normal, arguably, in the downtrend that it is. But if you're looking at the fear of today and you're like, I wanted to be greedy like last week, I want you to understand that if there's something you can bet on, it's the amount of people that are in the general chat that are retweeting us. This group keeps going up. Now, it might not look like it's going up linearly. It might look like it's going up like this. But this is how our user base is growing right now. Do you guys see this? This is the trend. Do you guys get it? There was a guy in here yesterday. He was like new. He's like, I want to learn about this project. Yeah, tell me about it. And he wasn't selling anything. He was like, this is different, right? Naturally, as we get better at content and marketing, we're gonna set aside more time. Okay, I have to do certain things to get our content factories going. Does that make sense? So Reddit as a content factory, TikTok in the short form as a content factory. This is stuff that is a time suck on my end, right? It requires time. Once I'm done setting those up, I can set aside time to just do more and more in-depth tutorial videos. Does that make sense to you guys? So our content factory will get automated first. Then I'll be spending more time with the Mr. Producer, and we'll be doing more in-depth, higher production tutorials that we only have to do once, by the way. We only have to do them once, and then we can set them up in our documentation and on our landing page. Yeah, I love that GIF, by the way. Yeah, the rotoring of a piston. That is a cross-section of an engine if you guys don't see it. Yeah, as more and more of these things get set out to the point that they're automated, we could have Reddit done by the end of this week possibly. And then when we are finally automated on Reddit, I bet we're gonna have a shit ton of fucking user base show up. You know why? Because Reddit crypto users are the people that would like PyreSwap. Do you guys understand why? Like crypto Reddit is probably gonna be more much more fruitful for us than crypto Twitter. Even though, again, I'm bullish on us doing better on Twitter as well. Yeah, they read the comments, and I think they read the docs as well. Well, Alessio, because they like to read a lot. Yep, exactly. Pega has answered the question. So, literally, that's the whole idea. Yeah, and ZeroX is correct. Like, literally, you can't talk about PyreSwap in a fucking tweet, right? You can, right? Active staking, vibrattility, highest real yield. But, like, these aren't the same thing as, like, to the moon. You know what I mean? Like, it's still, even our bumper sticker phrases still require these, like, derivative concepts behind them. And yes, Pega is correct. Yeah, like, we're all going to make it. And by the way, you guys, we are all going to make it. However, I like to prove that with math sometimes, right? Do you guys get it? Right? Like, I think the fact that we can say we're all going to make it, and then I explain that, hey, the reason we're in a downtrend is because inflation has been higher than deflation, and people have been speculating on the downtrend. Duh. Right? Right? We want to just compare ourselves to BNB, right? Or to Phantom, right? We don't really want to look at the dollar, but obviously we've been in a downtrend compared to AVAX, BNB, and Phantom. But like, what is the source of it? Our inflation was stupid high, but we got total supplies up to where they need to be. Do you guys get what I'm saying? I've been talking about this theory of bigness for a while. The token itself needed a bigness so that when we begin getting back to the meeting threshold, the token itself has a big enough market cap, et cetera, so that when metertrage is happening, they kind of operate like a do you guys know what a catamaran is? Here, I'm gonna pull up a picture of a catamaran on Brave here. Hopefully Brave Images doesn't drop the ball. There you go. Here's a good example of one. Okay. Do you guys see this image here? Well, you say it's a poor man yacht. Believe it or not, some of them are also yacht priced. But what a catamaran really is, it's actually a Polynesian invention. It was how they basically is how they went all over the Pacific and Indian Ocean, because they figured out that like one canoe with another canoe with fucking bridges between them. Actually, they go all the way across actually. With this stem between them, it effectively could deal with the sea state. It could deal with the sea state much better than a regular canoe. And you also could safely navigate the seas without needing a fucking galleon, right? So the Vikings and stuff in the 8th century AD in Europe, they didn't even figure out the catamaran. The catamaran was invented thousands of years before by Polynesians, and literally they were able to go all over the fucking ocean because they just invented the catamaran early. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. The Vikings were just using slave labor to just fucking get to Greenland or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, some of them are very expensive. Other ones are very small too. But the fact that I'm getting at here is that when we needed bigness, I want you guys to understand something. I'm going to draw a different one. Do you guys understand that if this canoe isn't big enough, the catamaran doesn't work? Yes, quality indeed. Do you guys understand that a catamaran, if the stabilizer side isn't big enough, it won't work. They don't need to be the same size, by the way. They don't need to be the same size. So certain catamarans, like very very low tech, like fisherman ones. Yeah, this side could be much smaller. But you guys understand that it still needed to be above a minimum size. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? I don't know that. I don't know what that means. Yeah, reverse Da Vinci Bridge. Da Vinci Bridge. Oh, okay. Well, this is I would say no, and the reason why, not that I'm talking about arc stabilization. Yeah. Well, not even that 0x, but more of that. It's a compensator. It's a compensator because we're talking about a market, so we're thinking more about boat design because markets have waves. Do you get what I'm saying? The floor and the references on the ocean, they're floating references and they're not fixed references. I think the fact that I'm ex-Navy helps a lot here because I noticed that some people have a lot of problems with floating references. When we talk about TWAP, we're talking about a floating reference. Does that make sense? Like Phantom is our reference and it floats because it's not a fixed price. Phantom does whatever the fuck it wants, right? AVAX the same way. So yeah, the fact of the matter is that Fexer, you remember, during open beta pre-Genesis, PyrePhantom was this size and 2 ohm was probably like this fucking size. You remember that? You guys remember this? Yeah. So literally when Metatrage happened, it was like this token got like positive, yeah. It was like plus 0.01% up over here. And then for Metatraging on PyrePhantom, it was just like down 7% over here. Right? So Fexer, Alessio, Pega, you guys remember, when we were first doing Metatrage in February and March, this is the type of stuff you would see. Right? Would you guys agree? Yeah, CJ agrees too. Yeah. The point being though, now due to us inflating and now they're becoming deflationary, we're going to now make this side larger. As it begins deflating, we will have upward price motion for the 5 factors. We'll call them like the five exponents, right? I'm just going to call this, deflation, speculation to the power speculation, then 3, speculation to the power speculation, 4, content, 5, marketing. This is the plan for the uptrend and possibly the rally, possibly the moon. Okay? Naturally, this is the plan up until we get to the threshold where meeting is profitable again. When we get to that threshold, naturally Metatrage will happen, but it is recommended that we need to deepen liquidity again at that moment. So there will be an incentive for you guys, the users, to do this. Do you guys know why? I'm going to explain this as well today. Why the hell not? Yeah, we're wrapping up. I'll explain this and we're done. Do you guys know why there will be an incentive to deepen liquidity? Okay. So PyrePhantom, no, not even security. Nope, not security. Literally incentive, financial incentive. So like PyrePhantoms, PyrePhantom to Phantom is like a certain percentage, right? And then 2 ohm to Phantom is a certain percentage gain as well, right? 2 ohm might be, you get some extra money. So if you hold PyrePhantom up into the price of 2 ohm, and let's say PyrePhantom is like 0.1 right now. I know it's less than that, but we'll just call it 0.1. Let's say Phantom is 1.0 and this is 1.0, and we'll say this is 0.01, and we'll just say 2 ohm is 0.10. I have no idea if it's lower. It might be lower than that. I don't fucking know. But if you guys understand this right here is a 10x to get the 2 ohm, right? But the same 10x you can acquire by selling some PyrePhantom for 2 ohm and then deepening it as LP. Because if you deepen the liquidity here, first of all, you're reducing price impact on both of them. But at the same time, since they're now the same size, they both have the same journey up to peg either way. Do you get what I'm saying? So the difference here is what okay. If you deploy Pyre Phantom against 2 ohm when they're both 0.10, what's the extra incentive you have by being in liquidity? Do you guys know this? What's the extra incentive? It's a horizontal incentive, not a vertical one. Yes, correct. You in fact accrue LP token, which is based on the underlying. So once you, in theory, 10x here, while you're waiting for the other 10x, the late stage 10x, you can get a 10x with a little bit of swap fees as well. Maybe that's, I don't know. I have no idea how to calculate that because that's very multivariable, let's put it that way. Do you guys understand that? We'll worry about that when we get to the meeting threshold. But in the short term, just the 5 things I wrote before. So I'm gonna make an announcement today about deflation and inflation. And other than that, you guys understand catamarans, and you guys understand flight to quality, and yeah, the calendar. Yeah, we're good. No more screen share needed. Does anybody have any questions? Because we're gonna wrap it up. Electronic, I don't make predictions on timing because that literally invalidates them. Yeah. Do you understand that? Do you understand that, like, forecasting, like, any forecast, yeah, any forecast, we did see, Biscuit, yes. Any forecast, okay, you want me, okay, on timing, okay, electronic, I will give you timing. Oh, yeah, before then. Yeah, before then. Like, okay, electronic, here's the way I look at it. I'm going to tell you that I predict that we're going to have our Reddit and short form content factories both up and running within 14 days, right? So my predictions on timing have to do with what's in my control. Did you get what I'm saying? By the time that we have those factories running, here's what I know. We have hundreds of hours of the PyreSwap show. Does that make sense? We have hundreds of hours of the PyreSwap show that can now be edited and turned into short form and just literally littered the internet. We can just litter the internet with short form of me pointing at this whiteboard and talking about whatever you want. Do you get what I'm saying? Secondly, us having Reddit, like we're slowly, like as all these pistons begin spinning up. Oh, again, like, you know, they'll be, you know what, Alessio, we might have more than one editor. How about that? We might have more than one editor in parallel. Let's put it that way. Yeah. So literally, then by the time electronic, I'll say that I'm also bullish that maybe 30 days from now, I will have a list of 1,000 YouTubers. Does that make sense? So 30 days from now, I'll have a list of 1,000 YouTubers. So let's say that September is the month where we're going to get this content factory happening. And then when October happens, I'm going to litter the internet with YouTube videos about PyreSwap. We are going to literally drown the internet in PyreSwap awareness. Okay? So then, yeah, exactly. And then, like electronic, then, by the way, I expect that we will be in an uptrend before, like, we'll be in an uptrend, like, okay, we will be in an uptrend much earlier than starting off with the YouTubers, because I'm not gonna start emailing the YouTubers until our chart looks like an easy analysis, right? So by the time October starts, I need to be in a clear uptrend, right? I'm not saying we're gonna be at the meeting threshold even, right? But let's say we're definitely gonna be up from there, right? Because otherwise, I want you to know something. The fibs, oh yeah, I have no idea what the fibs are. Like, I don't, arguably the fibs might lie a bit because, well, whatever. By the way, there is more games being built for Xeom. Yeah, so I saw a screenshot yesterday, and there is a, I know, I appreciate it, yeah. There is a, I saw a screenshot yesterday, and there's a game, I think it's a reskin of Forge of Empires, or something like that. But anyways, it uses Xeom as a token. Yeah, more on that later. In theory, it should be player versus player and have like a player sub-economy for Xeom. Yeah. Fibonacci, I would say, CJ, in order for the Fibonacci numbers to kind of show up, is we definitely need to have a saturation. We need to have user saturation. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like in order for the math of the world to reveal itself, we need more chaos in the system. So if we only have like 75 total people, across the Genesis and the active user base, that isn't enough to really like say that this chart is behaving the naturally. Okay. Anyways, do you guys understand? So like as far as prediction, I think within 14 days we can have both those factories up and running. I think within 14 days we'll have a lot more man on the street content as well. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So I think within 14 days I might get really, really good at it too. And we'll also have a lot more stickers. By the way, do you guys know that 2,000 stickers are getting distributed across Turkey today? 8 different cities in Turkey are getting stickers today with pictures. CJ, I have no idea. It might make more sense to print out QR codes on business cards and dish them out. But even then, I would just put PyreSwap.com on there. Anyways, thank you guys so much for coming to the PyreSwap show. Have a great rest of your day.